Do you find that may be true for all of us as we progress through life? Instead of being married for lifetime, maybe we should be married for 10 years and then you re-up again.
Yeah, well, it's a reason why people sometimes in second and third marriages say, I think I've done a better job of picking the person, or I get someone I'm much more compatible with. Yes.
Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64?
And now the podcast where together we discuss proactive aging on your terms, connecting to the professional advice of our special guests while creating better days throughout the aging process. Now here's your host, Mark Turnbull.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another lively discussion on Aging Today. We are the podcast where together we explore the many options to aging on your terms. You can find Aging Today and our past 8 years of programming on our website. All you got to do is go to agingtoday.us. That's agingtoday.us. And I want to say thank you for all of you that have been following us over the past 8 years. Without you, this podcast could not be possible. And it's really important for me to know what your questions are moving forward on the aging process, because we tackle everything. We want to bring aging to the forefront, bring it up on top of the table, and we're going to address every little aspect of aging. Well, I know a few things in the short term that I've been on this earth for the past 67 years is that I've gleaned is that I don't like being alone. And I don't think we're hardwired to be alone. In fact, I think if you go back to the biblical story of Adam and Eve, God created Adam and then he realized that Adam was alone so he created Eve. And he didn't create Eve to be subservient. He didn't create Eve to be above or below, but right beside, walking together. And as we traverse this earth, and I believe that, and I think our guests believe that. I'm not sure if you believe the biblical story, but here to join us in that conversation about not being alone, and especially moving into our senior years. And as we traverse this earth, things happen and our spouses leave us for whatever reasons, whether it's divorce or death. We wake up one morning and not only do we find ourselves suddenly senior, but we find ourselves suddenly alone. And you don't have to be alone, because that is what Gloria Horsley and Frank Powers are going to be addressing. They've written a book called Open to Love, The Secret to Senior Dating. And so we're going to have a lively discussion. Welcome, both of you, to Aging Today.
Thanks. Well, thank you.
Thanks,
we're
Mark.
happy to be here.
Yeah, we're excited about being on.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you too, because one of the things that I appreciate about all of my guests, but especially you two that have traversed this earth a little bit longer than myself, is that not only do you have a lot of knowledge, but with that knowledge is wrapped in all kinds of wisdom. And I love wisdom. Wisdom is the art of living life skillfully. That's what wisdom is all about. And so you've learned that, and you are prepared to share with us some of the nuggets on how we can live our lives not alone.
I think we're still learning it.
Yeah.
As we go, you do learn on a regular basis.
You're never too old to learn.
I think it's important. I'm 85 and Frank is
82.
Are you
Nice.
81 or 82?
I'm 82.
You're 81 until June.
Oh, no, but I feel 82.
That's great. That's great. Well, so the way we start out all of our segments is we talk about, not so much what's in your wallet, but what's in your story. We want to know what brought you to, for your paths to cross, because you didn't start out life together. But you're at the tail end of, or hopefully not too far down the tail end, but towards the end of your lives, you've crossed paths.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit, and let's start with you, Gloria. Ladies first, and tell us a little bit about what's in your story.
Well, I was married young, as we were in my age. I was just turning 21, and I was married for 60 years to the same man. We had 4 children, and he passed away 4 years ago of a staph infection and he'd had a number of back surgeries and health issues as he got older. So I'd been through some health issues with him. And also, I think it's one thing I like to mention is that my son was killed in an automobile accident many years ago, 40 years ago. And I have a foundation that deals with grief and loss. So I wasn't unfamiliar with the world of grief, loss, and recovery. I do think you have to look at your background and how you respond at an older age to grief and loss. Because when my husband died, one of the things he said to me, he knew that he was had his blood count was going south, and he said to me, "Gloria, when I die, you're going to be with somebody else." And I'm like, "Oh, no, no, no. I will never be with anybody else. We've been married."
Yeah.
He said, "You will be," which was kind of
He's a wise man.
Which was kind of an interesting permission. But to go on from that, been married for 60 years, and I got into a grief recovery group. And when I was in the group, because I'm a therapist, I've been a therapist for 40 years. And I did.
What kind of a therapist?
I was a marriage and family therapist. I'm also a clinical nurse specialist in psychiatry, and I also have a degree in psychology. So, so I kind of knew something about the whole world of grief, loss, and psychology and all that. And so I said to myself, "Okay, my husband died. What would I tell my clients?" And I said, what I would tell him is to get some support. That peer support, particularly, I feel like is really important. So how am I going to get some support? So I called my local organization. I live in Palo Alto, California, and I called them. It's called CARA, and said, "Hey, Jim, who is the head of it that I'd known for years, look, I feel like I need to get into some therapy but I don't think you're going to be able to find a therapist for me." And he said, "Well, let me look around." And he got a guy who actually had a child die and who counseled other therapists and had a wife die. So it was like, wow. So I got into a group with Cara, and I met a guy in the group named Steve, and Steve was a golfer. This is only after Phil had been dead for only about 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
And I started golfing with him every single day. So I never thought
of golfing through grief.
Golfing through grief. I actually wrote an article on it. So I'm golfing with him every single day. I don't think I would have gotten in a relationship that soon, but I golfing with him every day. Finally, after about 4 months, he just asked me if he could move in with me, and I said, why not? So he moved in. And after I had been with him for about 9 months, it was Christmas time, and I went to Hawaii with with my whole family, and it was about 27 people that all went together and rented houses.
It was a little overwhelming for him, I think.
And he was like, I was staying in Hawaii for a little bit longer, and he said to me, sent me a text, and said, "I want you to know I'm moving out of the house. I'm
out of here."
Yeah, I'm
he
done.
Ghosted her.
It's too much. And then he ghosted me. I guess we should have talked about it.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know what ghosting was, so I got ghosted. So I'm in Hawaii, and I get COVID. And I am so angry. And
what year was that when you were in Hawaii? What year was that? Was that 2019?
It was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
3 years.
Because I was in Hawaii. The reason I asked, I was in Hawaii with my mom and dad, and they were, I think at that time, 98. Yeah, they were 90. And that's when the pandemic just started. In fact, we believe my mom and I got COVID while we were there in Hawaii, but nobody knew what it was. They didn't even know what to treat. But my mom ended up going to the hospital twice.
Oh my gosh.
And then I went, I woke up one morning or in the middle of the night, and I said to Christina, I can't breathe. And I wasn't feeling well. And she says, I'm going to need to go to the hospital. And I never want to go to the hospital. And she says, just suck it up, buttercups. And so I went back to bed.
Well, it would be probably a little bit later than that because COVID had been around for a while.
Yeah.
But anyway, I decided to write a book for widows because I learned from my experience and from what happened to me that I've been given some pretty bad advice for the past 40 years to some widows, which was don't do anything for the first year. Don't date, don't do this, don't do that, and it is kind of rule of thumb for therapists to say, don't make any big decisions for the first year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We love to say that. And I made a ton of decisions. I ended up living with a guy. I ended up getting ghosted. All these things happened to me. And I realized that you have to go with survival. You're trying to survive and you're just going to go with what you can get up in the morning and do.
And what you need.
Yeah. And what's not destructive to other
So
people.
you're saying that all of the advice that you used to give to your clients, you did the exact opposite.
Exactly.
And as a result of that, now, do you adhere to that to this day, that you would not, if you were active in therapy, what would you say to somebody?
I would look definitely at their total circumstances. What's their past history with grief and loss?
Yes.
How do they understand it? How do they frame it? What their age is? And we'll get into it later, that I didn't have time. Frank and I didn't have time to court for a year, whatever my kids expected me to do. You've got to look at the total and complete person. Women are widowed. The average age of widowhood, and people don't realize this, is 57.
Yeah.
And for men, it's 67.
Mm-hmm.
So, you're seeing just a lot of differences. And for me, I was at the time 80 when my husband died. So, you've just got to look at circumstances, but there's just no rule of thumb. And having people tell you to wait for a year,
it may work and it may not, but you have to really trust your own judgment about it and be aware of what your needs are and how you feel.
And Frank will talk a little bit about how important it was that I had been in a relationship before I met Frank.
It made me feel much more comfortable, actually, that she was only a year and a half out and really, in a sense, had already been in a relationship, and that she was. I was really appreciative of how angry she was about it. And I thought, oh, wow, okay, that's good.
Yeah.
I look pretty good now.
So anyway, I'm sitting there and I decided I'm going to write a book for widows because I want to talk about all the things I've learned, going into a therapy group, what I liked about it, what I didn't, the whole thing about widowhood. And I thought, well, if I'm going to write a book on widowhood, I've really got to do a chapter on online dating. Well, I never, ever thought about online dating. So I just go on and Google online dating and I get silver singles. I sign up.
Yeah.
And I met a guy, Dave, who I met in Arizona. I set up a date with him. I went to stay with my sister in Arizona for the winter. She's single, divorced. And so I went to stay with her. So I was going to go from Hawaii to Arizona. So I, put in Arizona as my location. And I met a guy named Dave. I set up a coffee with him when I got back. And then Frank got
I was the second one. Yeah.
And he was the second person that I signed up to go to coffee with when I got back. And it took a little negotiation. I'm like, I wanted to see him right away. I wanted to meet him and get on with the process because I'm going to write my book. So I got to really get this thing on the ground rolling fast.
And the first thing she says to me when we meet is saying, you know what? I don't want to mislead you. I'm only here to write a book. I look in her eyes and I said, I don't think so. I think there's more.
This is research.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
So anyway, I got back to Arizona. I met Dave, and he spent his whole time talking about his surgery he'd had. And I'm like, I don't know.
So with these two guys, I look pretty good.
Yeah. So the moral of the lesson is don't be the first. Be the third.
Don't be the first. That's right. You come across much better if they've had a bad experience before.
Well, Frank and I have talked about it as a therapist. if I met somebody who'd never dated before and had a loss,
recent loss, yeah, you'd be a
might
little
be
suspicious. Yeah,
I'm like,
are they ready?
I don't
Are
want
they
to.
really?
You didn't want to
Yeah.
be my therapist.
I want to carry someone through
Through the whole process. But
So, Gloria, what did you learn about yourself, as you were going through the ups and downs of, going through grief, going through loss, and all the things that you used to say clinically in, the office to your clients, you were doing the exact opposite. What did you learn about yourself that was kind of revealing?
I kind of learned that I was stronger than you think, and that you'll get through it. And there are people that will help you. You have to accept that help, particularly in finances and business and things like that, because you've got that emotional side that you need to be able to nurture. You need to be able to cry when you need to be able to cry. You need to be able to leave the room when you need to be able to leave the room.
You need the people. You need people to be there for you and support you. You gotta allow them to support you.
And you have to say yes. Yeah. Can I do this for you? And you have to say, can you do this for me? Could you drive me to the airport, or could you come over and help me with my computer or my problems? Mm-hmm. You've got to be open to having people come in, and you do need care and to be taken care of. However, on the other hand, you also need to look good. I did. Yeah. I needed to look strong.
Yeah. Well, and being a professional in psychology, you were probably pretty confident in who you were, and you've had a lot of experiences through other people's experiences in life. So you were very confident, but you then all of a sudden you wake up one day and now you're alone and you're vulnerable, and that must have been a huge change in the way you look at things.
Yep. Being alone, I'm not a loner kind of person. And I was happy to get in the group and to meet people and to get involved with Steve and to go golfing with him every day.
It was very healthy for you to go to get out and do something, and COVID was going on. It was a tough time.
Well, his wife had died 2 days after my husband. Or before, and his wife had Alzheimer's for years. So because of that, he had a little bit of a trajectory. He knew she was ill. She chose not to eat. She had Alzheimer's and she chose to die. She made her choice. To die. So he'd been through a lot. But that being said, he really wasn't ready for the relationship. And
not your family.
No, he wasn't ready. He actually ended up having a nervous breakdown.
Yes, I did afterwards.
Yeah, because he said we talked to him and he said he hadn't really grieved for his wife when he met me. So, they're coming together with other people. It's interesting, but I found my one-to-one counseling really good. And that was really, really important to me, to have somebody that I could talk to once a week. And he would listen to me, and he didn't really make that many suggestions. He would just listen to, what I had to say. And I told him one thing. I said, I feel too good. I feel like I should be having a nervous breakdown. But
you should be sadder.
I guess that's one of the things, Mark, that I really found out. And maybe it's because of my age, but I'd worked with a lot. And as I said, I think having my son die made a difference, because I've worked with a lot of widows. This is their number one first big thing that's ever happened to them. Mm-hmm. So I like to say this about it. Having my son die was like going to Mount Everest without oxygen. Having my husband die was like going to Mount Everest with oxygen. I knew the trip. I'd taken it. I knew I would live, and I knew I would be happy again.
Yeah. Wow.
And I did not know that the first time. And I don't think you know it for the big losses. Could you ever be happy again?
Loss is like almost any other experience. The more you have, the better you get at dealing with it, I think.
Yeah. You also, there are health issues. I mean, I knew that also. I knew I absolutely had to take care of myself physically. I was fully aware of that. I'd seen too many people go south.
Yeah.
who
Caretaker
had
syndrome
losses.
is really tough.
Yeah, and I'd had caretaker syndrome from taking care of my husband.
Yeah.
So I really was very, very aware. If there could be one thing I would say to people who are in grief, and particularly spouses, make sure you take care of your own health, because people die within the first couple of years of a spouse's death. So, and it doesn't have to happen.
Mm-hmm. No, it's preventable.
Yeah.
So, Frank, what's in your story?
Well, I come from a totally different perspective. I was divorced a year and a half before I went back online, and I was in a position of kind of ending my career and not knowing what I was going to do, and I had retirement ahead of me, and I thought, oh gosh, do I want to stay in this house and do all this maintenance for this, or do I want to go into a senior community? Because I thought, senior community, I think being a male, I'm probably in a good position. It's 2-to-1 in senior communities. So,
are you sure it's 2-to-1? It's not 5-to-1?
Well, sometimes
10-to-1.
I knew I was on the right side of the statistics, so that was So I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll go into a senior community. And I said, no, I met my wife online. Maybe I should try this again. It was pretty successful.
You met more than one wife online.
Yes. So I decided to go back online and then saw Gloria's profile, and I said, wow, this is a powerhouse lady. I want to meet this lady. So then I met her, and she was one of the few people that looked better than her profile picture, which is the problems with online dating is the profile pictures are usually 10 years before.
Well, I didn't know to do anything but take a camera and take my picture.
The honesty was refreshing.
Yeah. Well, and the rest of the profiles that you saw, Frank, were the same woman, but they were in their 20s.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So it was really refreshing, and then all of a sudden, we meet, and Gloria was so amazing because she was a newbie, and I had been on before, so I knew a little bit of the informal rules of dating online, and she didn't do any of them. First of all, normally you just go out for coffee the first time, you don't do that. But I gave her the option of coffee or happy hour, and she chose happy hour. So I said, oh, wow, a lot of confidence this lady has. Okay. So we met for a happy hour. And we had such a wonderful time. And I was teasing her, using this old metaphor. I said, well, you want to come up and see my etchings because I'm a sculptor too. So I thought that would be a funny line. And the first thing she says, oh yeah, I'd like to see them. And then she says to me, oh, my car's in the shop. Do you mind giving me a ride home? Oh my God. First time I'm meeting her. Wow. This is really something.
Frank did have that's one nice thing about the internet. I already stalked him on the internet.
Yeah,
I had
a website
that he's a therapist. He's also a sculptor, and I knew I was going to go see his sculptures. And
yeah. So boy, her confidence really stood out. I mean,
how much did the two of you as therapists play into you connecting?
Oh, very much so. We have kind of a philosophy, and it's in the book, that when you're 30, you really like a person to be different, opposites attract, and you like the difference and whatever, and then you spend the next 30 years trying to make them like you.
Right.
As you get older, it's really much more important to find someone who's more similar to you because it makes it so easy. You don't have a lot of issues that you have to work out. Mm-hmm. And for us, coming from the same field, knowing the same people in the field, and having this connection really made it easier. So I think the familiarity of finding someone who's more similar to you is an important issue as you get older in terms of dating. You don't want to spend a lot of time trying to change the other person.
Yeah. And I was when you were describing Gloria earlier about you were writing a book and you meet Frank, and Frank's going, I don't want to be the subject of your book. And it reminded me of the movie with Diane Keaton and Jack Nicholson. Do you know that movie? I can't think of the name of it right now.
I'm not familiar with that.
It's a great movie.
Yeah, good. We'll have to watch it.
Yeah, check it out, and just Google Diane Keaton and Jack Nicholson, and that she was a writer.
Oh yeah, he had a dog, didn't he? In that,
what's that?
Didn't he have a dog, and he was her neighbor or something?
No, this was different. So
different movie.
So Jack Nicholson is dating her daughter.
Yes, that's right. I remember that.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
Yeah, that's a great movie. But anyhow, I was just thinking of that when you were describing your situation.
One of the things that's been really interesting, Mark, is the difference between divorce and death. Now, I joined this group. I meet this guy in a grief group, and I say to my family, "Oh, I met this guy in a group. I met this guy I'm dating. We're golfing together." And they're like, "Well, where did you meet him?" And I say, "In a grief group." And everybody says, "Oh,
that's okay."
Group. Oh, that's great. And then I meet Frank, and they say, "Oh, what about Frank's background?" And I say he's been divorced, and they're like, "Oh,
yeah,
oh." So,
I had to pass muster several times.
You do kind of get a pass when there's a grief. They want
the divorce. You're problematic.
Yeah, and talk about loneliness. At least when you've had a death, people want to go to dinner with you, and not afraid of you trying to steal their husband right away.
So, as therapists, and I don't know if you guys consider yourself fixers. Most men are fixers. They want to fix, and the women want to, or maybe it's the other way around. Women want to fix the man. Did you wrestle with that at all? Being therapists. Also, I'm sure at that age, how do you approach a new relationship, and you look at people and you go, I'm going to fix that. I mean, I like everything I see, but there's things that need to be corrected.
Well, Mike, she told you the story about Steve. So she tells me the story about Steve, and I think, oh, okay, well, here I can be the good guy. I'm not going to ghost her, and I'm not going to do all these things. So I already had a role. Okay, well, I won't do any of those things that Steve did, of course.
Yeah. But then you had your own stuff that you had to put up with me.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Well, her daughter, right off the bat, kind of said, Mom, we think this relationship is going too fast. So from the very beginning, she was confronted by that. And I come walking in from doing therapy, and they were doing a podcast with their daughter. And Gloria says, "You talk to him."
I said, "Here's Frank. Talk to him."
Yeah.
Well, so I was still in therapy mode. So I said, "Well, Rebecca, what can I do to make you feel more comfortable?"
Yeah.
Therapist arrives on the scene.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm in shell shock. I mean, whoa.
To tell you the honest truth, Mark, I don't think. Do we have high expectations of each other? In a way, I mean, Frank is who he is, and I know what he does, and he has some habits that I don't like. Some of them I ignore, and some of them I comment on.
I don't really lower the toilet seat as often as I.
Well, you need to get what I got. I got my mom and myself and for my wife Christina also, but I got them bidets. Where the toilet seat rises and closes all by itself. That solves the problem right there, Frank. Yeah.
That's really annoying.
I know.
Now, one of the things that we've got going right now is that I have to plan all the social events, and I said to Frank, "It's when we first got together,
I got to get better. I got to get better at that."
Yeah, and then you said, "Well, I'll do a couple of things a month."
I brought my stepdaughter in.
Yeah.
As an activity.
His stepdaughter's here.
We're having a ball with her.
And she and her boyfriend play guitar, and they're going to do an event for us, and it's fun. But there are I think that we cut each other more slack than we would if we were 20.
We often say, and I think it's really true, that if we would have met in our 30s, I don't think we would have been compatible. it's really now, after all life experiences and whatever and what we've gone through, that we're much more compatible and we get along so much better. But both of us, I think we both said that.
Yeah, we both said
in
that.
the 30s, we were different people.
Yeah.
And I don't think we would have been as compatible.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
Do you find that may be true for all of us as we progress through life? Instead of being married for lifetime, maybe we should be married for 10 years and then you re-up again.
Yeah, well, it's a reason why people sometimes in second and third marriages say, I think I've done a better job of picking the person, or I get someone I'm much more compatible with. Yes.
Did you know that loneliness is one of the major health problems today? The average age of widowhood is 57 years old for women and 65 years old for men. This leaves many potential years of living without a partner or companionship. Being open to love can broaden opportunities so you don't have to be alone. This Did You Know segment was brought to you by this week's guest and sponsored by Royal Hospice, Oregon.
Well,
Wasn't it Jackie Onassis that said, the first time I married for love, the second time I married for money, and the third time I don't remember what the third one was, for companionship. Maybe it was companionship.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's just it's a couple's world.
Yes.
And it's really tough out there to be lonely.
Well, Mark, people who are in relationship tend to live 7 years longer than people who are single. And so it's like you said in the beginning, it really is more natural. We're social animals. We need to have connection with someone. We don't generally do well alone. And so it is a couple's world, and you do live longer. And I think most people are happier, even if the relationship isn't perfect, because relationships are not perfect. But it's so much nicer to cuddle up with someone. Pillow talk is absolutely the most wonderful way to deal with the frustrations of the day. There are so many nice things about being in relationship and connected that are just healthier emotionally and physically.
Well, that being said, I know I have a lot of single women who are older who say they won't get into a relationship. They don't want to, and they're happy. And you know what? If you love your dog and you are able to get enough community in your neighborhood and
enough
with
connection,
your community and make those connections and get out, it's doable. There's no question.
And women tend to do it better because they have closer relationships, and guys tend to be a little more isolated and a little less ability to share and be connected with other men. And I think that's something women do better than men do.
I find that interesting. I mean, you guys are both psychologists or therapists, and I find that women, they tend to be more social. They tend to be more relational than men. Men are more isolated. Yeah. And yet I find it interesting how as we age, men are deathly afraid of being alone. And yet women can handle being alone in general better.
Well,
and that doesn't, how do you bring those two together?
Well, I think they look and sound like, and they talk like they're doing well. And I'm not sure that that's really how well they're doing. Certainly when people came in to see me, men who are older, they would kind of take off that cloak of, hey, I'm just fine. I'm doing great being single. And you found underneath that they were pretty needy and they were feeling really isolated and alone. Yeah. And isolation and loneliness is the number one mental health issue for people who are older.
Well, I have to say that men oftentimes marry within 7 months.
Yeah, because they're needy.
Yeah. And what are they needy for? Are they needy for physical need?
Taken care of in most cases. My experience is that they want someone to take care of them. And they feel really scared about being alone, but they don't know how to deal with it. So the way that they do it is latch onto somebody right away.
Yeah. And so as a woman, Gloria, I mean, would you want to be involved in a relationship where the man is needy unless unless you're hardwired that way where you feel like, that's something you want to do is meet the needs of another human being.
Well, I have to tell you, sometimes you got to remember what I just told you. Men tend to marry within 7 months. So the women that I work with, some of them, I say, you may have to shepherd a guy through some of this. You've got to look like what he was like before the loss, because he will get back to that. But you may have to help them through some grief and loss, in particular
that they're not even aware of.
Yeah, and there are women who've maybe been single for 5 years or something. They meet this great guy, but he's talking about his wife who died, which I can't tell you how many times they complain about that. And we talk to him about, look, when you're with him and he's talking about his wife all the time, you need to stop him.
Yeah.
And you need to say, hey, I really like you. I like our relationship. We need to focus on me too, and ask for what you need. Don't let them get away with being all that needy. You've got to look at them. They can step it up.
We have one cartoon in the book. I don't know if you remember seeing it, where the guy is having dinner with his date, but it's at his wife's grave. And she said, I don't think you're quite ready.
Yeah. That was a great cartoon. So since you brought that up, let's take a dive into your book. It's called Open to Love: The Secrets to Senior Dating. Did I get the title correct?
Exactly.
Correct.
Okay. So Gloria, the impetus was with you. You were writing the book and Frank comes along but I noticed that Frank's got his signature all over it. How far were you into the book? And yet, how then did you dovetail the two sides, the two perspectives?
I had, just roughly put down a table of content.
Yeah, and she was just talking about widows. And so when we got together, we said, well, I think we should talk about the relationship.
I said, why don't you write it with me?
Yes.
Right. The book is a lived experience. It is really our clients. We have client stories in there, but we also have our own personal experience. Because at this age, nobody has the experience we have in this area lived.
Yeah. 1900, the average lifespan was 46 years of age. So we've gained 30 years. So there's not a lot of really good examples of people doing a relationship well into their 70s and 80s. And there's not enough real good examples of how to do that well. And so this is the first generation, and that really has gotten large numbers of people who are living and having the health to have a relationship, because you do have to be fairly healthy to have a relationship.
Yeah.
No one wants to start off a relationship being a caretaker in most cases.
Yes. And, women talk about one of the things that stops them from dating is they don't want to be a nurse or a purse. And they love to say that. I don't want to be a nurse or a purse.
Well, we hear that all the time.
Yeah. And I say there are female nurses. There are also male nurses. So, and you don't have to be a nurse. And the purse part, we could talk about that endlessly, but you're never going to be financially equal. What you want is somebody who can take care of themselves, who has a retirement, who's been responsible for themselves financially, because you're not no way are you going to be equal.
Yeah.
So,
and if you wait to find someone equal, it's going to really limit.
If you wait for if you make all these requirements, you are not going to get into a relationship.
Yeah. You'll just postpone getting into a relationship.
Well, and as I was reading through the book, I was beginning to think, well, a lot of the principles and the stories that you share are from a senior's perspective, but those principles can be translated into your 20s and 30s and 40s all the way through.
A lot of young people have told us that
it's kind of nice to hear from them saying, hey, these are not just old issues. These are issues that we can deal with too. Yeah.
The one issue that's not is different is our chapter on Through the Bedroom Door.
Yeah.
And that is different.
Yes,
the sexuality is different.
It's different.
We really, say to people, well, if you want to know more about it, get the book.
So we're not going to go. So we got to go down. You brought it up, so we got to go down that road just a little bit.
Okay.
So So what is the main difference between when you're 80, you guys said you're 84, correct?
I'm 85 and Frank
85.
81.
Yeah.
You're 81
Why
until April.
next month? I mean,
Yeah. So what's the difference between sex at 84 and sex at 24? And I got to tell you a story. When I was in college, I went to a church in Corvallis, Oregon, and they had a visiting preacher come up to the pulpit, and he was in his 80s, and he was talking about Christians and sex. And he was approached by the question, well, when does sex end? And he proceeded to tell the story, well, I'm 85, so it ends sometime after that.
Yeah, well, that's really true. And one of the things is that the statistics that I've heard, and
we know the statistics,
that really, in a sense, after 70, there is a high propensity for men to be impotent or have some problems with erections. So, sex needs to be different. Connection needs to be different. And how you make love and what you do in the bedroom is usually a little different. And if you don't adjust to that, then you may just eliminate it all, which many men do. I mean, I had men come in my practice that were talking about, well, I don't, it's too embarrassing. I certainly can't date now because I can't get an erection.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And I said, what are you talking about? I mean, that doesn't end there. I mean, don't you like touch? Don't you enjoy connection? Don't you enjoy kissing? Don't you enjoy fondling? I mean, where are you in this whole thing? I mean, what do you really enjoy, and what are you going to miss out if you just stay away because you can't get an erection?
Mm-hmm. And is that typical amongst men as opposed to women? Because I think men are more programmed for performance.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And who performs? The men, it's pretty obvious if you have a soft erection, it's nothing you can hide. Women can kind of fake it a little more, but they also have dry vaginal areas and problems with lubrication. So there are issues that both have, and you have to be really honest and be willing to face that. And you have to find out whether you. I have a friend as an example.
And don't forget, women can be orgasmic or not at that age also.
Exactly.
And it's just individual.
Yeah, I had a friend who had prostate surgery, and he was a psychologist, and he said, one of the things I was really scared about was after prostate surgery, would I be able to have an erection, and would that be it? And then I talked to him 3 or 4 months after he got his convalescence done, he was back, and I said, well, how's it going, and what's going on? And he says, you know what? We're finding so many better ways to make love now than we used to. It used to be all about penetration, and now it's about connection.
Yeah, well said. I think, one of the things that I know about my parents' generation, that sex was one of those topics that you really didn't talk about.
Exactly.
Right. And I'm from the baby boomer generation, and so, we were all about free love and openly discussing sex. And I'm curious how your generation, I mean, you're at the tail end of the greatest generation. My mom is in 95, and I used to take care of my grandmother and my mom's mom, and she my grandfather came to me and says, Mark, I'm just worn out. Can you give grandma a shower? And I said, okay, and he goes, just remember, she's very modest. And that's that generation. She's very modest. And so I said, okay, well, I'll be as discreet as I can. And he said, yeah, she's so modest that she wears a swimming suit to take her own bath. I mean, that's how modest that generation was. I mean, they just just didn't talk about it. It was all about covering up, even within themselves. I take care of my mom today, and she doesn't even care anymore. She just,
Right.
I go, Mom, cover up, really.
Yeah, I think that's true. There is a big difference, but of course, it's individual also. How people feel about it and how they felt about their sexuality in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, that's the history of it. But I have a feeling that there are men who don't date because of their.
Oh, very much so, and because they feel like, well, my dating years are over if I don't have a full erection, and that's a big lie, unfortunately. And I wish more people understood that it's a lie. I mean, there are so many ways of showing and receiving love. You don't really have to be so focused on penetration.
No, there are things that you can do for it, shots, and for some people,
there are.
For some people, Viagra works. For some people, it doesn't. Once you've had prostate cancer, it's a pretty hard deal.
Yeah.
But if you, I mean, you might want to get shots and things like that. But for some people, that's a pain in the neck. I mean, there's no spontaneity. There's no just getting up and
there's so much more
and kissing and and fondling each other and just being close.
Yes, and really, in a sense, it takes a lot of pressure off it for especially a man if he knows that he can be loved without having a stiff erection.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, what you're saying for the bedroom is it's an open book, and it's not an end to the chapter. It can go on. It takes time to sit down and have serious conversation, an open conversation, which goes back to your book called Open to Love. How did you come up with that title? And was this part of some of the impetus behind, having open conversations with one another and that love is possible?
Well, Mark, to be open with you. No, actually, Gloria's foundation is open to hope. So we thought open to love would be the next step. If indeed you go through grief, then in a sense, it doesn't mean the end of things. Open to love is kind of the next thing.
Yeah.
So we said, I like the open part. Yeah. Let's do this open to love.
Open to hope. Our mission is helping people find hope after a death. And so open to love is helping people find.
And we're in the midst of writing the third book, which is Open to Life. And that is, okay, once you find a partner, how do you make it work? These issues are sexuality, money, family, friends, caretaking, illness, we're taking up in the next book that we're writing, which is Open to Life.
The thing is about being open to love is that you have to just talking to people about, are you open to a new person in your life? It's interesting just asking them that. Are you open to a new person in your life?
And some people just kind of look at you and say, oh, I don't know. And that's true. It's honest. They don't know.
Think, would I, and it puts them on their trajectory of would I be interested? Would I not? And if I am, how would I go about it?
Yeah, it's amazing.
And it's not, you just don't say, okay, I'm open to love now. Where are the people? I mean, it's a process.
It is.
And, in the first chapter of the book, we say you got to start by taking a little inventory. Who am I now? What did I like in past relationships?
And what didn't
I like?
Yeah.
Start, have some fun with it. Start thinking about.
Find out and get a profile of the kind of person that would work for you. And the kind of person that will usually work for you is the successful pieces of past relationships. So you say, yeah, I like that. I like that. I like that in a relationship. Oh, now I know what I'm looking for.
But you take that information and then you use it. We like online dating. The reason we do is because if you want to catch fish, you go where the fish are. And the fish are online dating.
Yeah, it's 50-50 online. Yeah. And so women do much better online because the numbers are better for them.
Well, the motivation is the same. You're on there because you're looking as well.
And hopefully people are honest and they're really single and they're looking for a relationship. You've got to be a good consumer if you go online, though. You have to learn how to find out about the person. And if you have any questions, you can do the E-Verify. You can go on Google. You can Google them. You can do a lot of different things, white pages to find out about the person that you're thinking about dating. And you really want to find out, are they who they say they are? And that's the biggest thing. And we say, under no circumstances do you ever give money to anybody online.
Never.
No matter what the story is. What. And you've got to be careful. You want to meet them as soon as possible so that you don't fall in love with them online and then find out it's a scammer.
I mean, I guess it's okay if you like to talk to people on the phone 24/7 or text. Good for you. But the reality is,
not a good way to find a partner.
If you're really a dating person, you want to find a partner, cut all that out.
Yeah.
And virtual dating is not the answer.
Yeah. Well, there's too many ways for people to hide certain things.
Besides that, you want the chemistry.
Yeah, you want to find if you like this person.
I'll tell you one thing that really surprised me, Mark, and that is that we are silly. You are so silly. When you fall in love with somebody, it doesn't matter how old
you are. You're a teenager.
You're silly. You're stupid. It's really stupid. Yeah. And you get to be stupid again.
Yeah, that's part of the fun.
Well, we used to call that when I was in college, we called it flathead. So what happens is when you meet a beautiful woman and all of a sudden all the emotions just, take over your brain and it presses down to where you can't even think logically anymore. Yeah.
Well, there's what I like about when you sign up for an online dating app, it changes the chemistry of your brain. There's a little gland in there called the amygdala. And when the amygdala gets excited, then things happen. And when you decide you want to date and you start looking at those pictures,
you get out of your sweats.
You get out of your sweats. You start going to bars and looking around or restaurants. Suddenly people see you looking around. You tell your friends you're dating. You find out,
all of a sudden
you're online. You find out they're online and it can be a party.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you say to the daughter or the son that says, "Mom, what are you doing? You're too old for this. You shouldn't be dating."
Oh,
we hear that all the time.
Yeah, we heard it from mine. Yeah. Not that you're too old, but that Frank and I were going too fast and should you be dating? And, they're all talking about it and buzzing the whole family. You know what I said to him? I said, I am old. I don't have a lot of time. And basically the message was, it's none of your business.
Well said.
We encourage people to say, thank you very much for your information, but, I will handle it the way I'm going to handle it.
Yeah. When I want your opinion, I'll tell it to you.
Yes, right.
However, I did have another friend who got scammed and she wouldn't listen to her son. Sometimes you do have to listen to
it's part of the risk. That's the risk of life.
Yes,
I know.
It's alive.
I have to say, it takes courage today.
Yeah.
And
it does.
I get anybody who's out there dating as a senior or,
put yourself out
in their 30s or 40s.
Who wants to get rejected, So that's part of the
So we talk about rejection in the book.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the fact that you
how do you handle it?
That you need to take it as information for your next date. And it's not, it just wasn't the right connect and working on
that. But that happens when you're 20 or 30, 40. I mean, it's a life of rejection. So get over it.
But as we get older, we get more afraid in many ways.
Well, especially if you just started dating.
Yeah,
it's a little more vulnerable.
One of the things our friends tell us is, people that we work with, is that it takes a lot of time. And I want to say that it does. If you want to date, particularly online, you need to make a commitment to maybe have some hours. You're going to do it. You need to set some goals. How many people will you see?
And one thing that we found is that you don't want to go into your head alone. No. You want to have a dating buddy or dating buddies that you can talk to about this and you get support and help. And a lot of times grandkids are great dating.
Yeah,
buddies.
your kids won't be, but your
grandkids will
think it's
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, they think
They'll help you set up
and
your
they're
website.
good online, so it really helps.
They can help you out. I mean, they're not going to stay with you for the whole thing, but just to get you started, and then you start talking about it, you'll find out that your friends have been dating, or people that you'll find out.
But dating buddies are really important to success.
Because you get discouraged.
Yeah.
And
you need a support group.
Yeah, and you can go through the pictures together and
have fun and talk about dating experiences, that you've had.
And there's somebody
funny.
There's somebody, if you do break up, you can call them at 10 o'clock at night.
Exactly.
And people tell us therapists are great, and we've done that. We've coached people as
therapists.
But you're not there to go through the pictures with them all the time or say, hey, did you just see this guy or this woman online? Exactly. What do you think?
Yeah.
And then tell the funny stories. I mean, they can tell us the funny stories. They do.
So we're coming up against the end of our time together, but and we're really? Just see how fast it goes. I mean, we haven't even gotten into the details of the book. So here's what I want to do is give us an overview of your book, because it's a compilation of a lot of years of knowledge and wisdom. And I love the wisdom part of what you brought to the book. But the second half of your title is The Secret to Senior Dating. What's the secret?
Well, I think one of the biggest secrets is that we've said you got to make commitment. Well, one of the things is you got to do it now.
You got to get yourself out there. You got to get the courage to say, hey, look, I don't want to be alone. And this is the way that I need to find someone.
And I'm willing to take a risk.
And I'm really take a risk and get out there.
And we show you in the book how you can create your profiles online and things, kind of building up from the beginning of the book. You're looking at what you want, and then you write that into your profile so that there's certain things that you can do to enhance your chances of finding that relationship.
And I think one of the things that I love about the book after writing it and then rereading it, because it's interesting to write a book and then reread it. Oh, I said that. Oh, that's not bad. I like that. So it's kind of fun to do. But one of the things that I really liked about the book is that we really talk about real issues of dating at this point in your life. And like you said, these are some issues that are through dating all the way from 30 on, so, and
I like don't
that.
Give up and, be a good consumer.
Yes. And get a dating buddy if you're going to get into
absolutely
this.
Dating buddies and have fun.
Yeah. Enjoy it. We certainly have.
And one of the things I like about the book too, is Frank speaks in his own voice and then I speak in my own voice, because I've learned a lot from Frank, what men think.
I love our little emojis that was done by cartoonists, where it's Gloria's emoji and then she has her talk and then I have my little emoji and then
I think that's one of the things I enjoyed about the read as well, is that I knew who was speaking when because of the way you guys laid it out. And it was really good to get the different perspectives. I think, we're men, so we think a lot alike. But it's also nice to hear how a woman thinks, and especially at the age of 85, how do you think differently than a man at 85? Or it doesn't matter the age. I mean, just women are just thinking different than guys.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really important. And so many books are written by women that on relationships that I really love.
I learned so much from her that I didn't even know. Even after 40 years of doing therapy and being 80 years old, I still learned some things about women from her that I didn't know. As we wrote the book, it was wonderful.
My main thing that I learned is why men date younger women. I thought it was because they were just hot, and Frank tells me no, it's because they want other guys to see they've still got
They got a hot woman on it.
Yeah. Arm candy, they call that.
Candy.
Yeah, look what I can do.
I'm not so old. Look at.
Yeah. Oh, that's great stuff. So for those that want to pick up a copy of the book, what's the best way to get it? And then also, do you have a website? So let's say, do you talk with seniors or with children of seniors, conversing with, addressing some of the challenges that they face in the dating scene?
Well, you'll find at thegoldendatingdoctors.com, thegoldendatingdoctors.com, you will find a lot of snippets and things that we've done online, answering questions and all that kind of thing. And then
some good information.
Yeah. And then the book can be bought on Amazon. We'd love to have you buy the book. And if we like it, we hope you'll give
There's
us
an audio book where we actually, we read the book. I read my sections and she reads her sections, and then we trade off reading the center's part of it.
So we had a lot of fun with the audio book.
It was actually, it was a lot of work, but it came out much better than I thought it would.
And we're on Instagram, social media, the Golden Dating Doctors.
Yeah.
You can see us playing pickleball.
Yes.
Nice. All right. Dr. Gloria Horsley and Dr. Frank Powers, thank you so much for being on Aging Today. It was a pleasure. It was a delight. It was filled with laughter and wisdom, and I say thank you.
Thanks for having us on, Mark. It's been great.
Keep reaching out, touching the lives of seniors out there. And you're not just touching seniors. You are touching, it's a multi-generational book, and it's about dating. It's about living, how we interrelate with one another, families interrelating with their moms and dads, and validating everything that we're doing as human beings. Love it.
Oh, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I can't wait for the third book to come out. Let's get you on.
I can't either.
Yeah. All right. Did you start it? Did you start the book?
It's the third done.
Second book, yeah.
Second.
Third done.
Yeah. We also have a workbook.
I have to laugh because we're still living it.
Yeah.
We keep getting new chapters.
Oh, my God, yes.
Nice. All right. We'll keep it going. We'll have you back for sure.
Okay, thanks.
All right. This is Mark Turnbull, your host, and I want to thank all of you for tuning in to Aging Today. We are the podcast where together we're exploring the many options to aging on your terms. Join us every Monday when we release a new conversation on Aging Today to your favorite podcast channel. And remember this, we're all in the process of aging. And as we age, we really are better together. So stay young at heart.
You make me feel so young. You make me feel like spring has sprung. And every time I see your face, I'm such a happy individual. The moment that you speak, I want to go play hide and seek. I want to go and bounce the moon just like a toy balloon. Well, you and I are just like a couple of tots running across the meadow, picking up lots of forget-me-nots. So you made me feel so young. You made me feel there are songs to be sung, bells to be rung, and a wonderful thing to be fun. And even when I'm old and gray.
You've been listening to Aging Today, where together we explore the options to aging on your terms. Join Mark and his guest next week for another lively discussion on proactively aging on your terms, connecting you to the professional advice of his special guests, with the goal of creating better days throughout the aging process. Your host has been Mark Turnbull. Join Mark and his guests every week on Aging Today, your podcast to exploring your options for aging on your terms.
And even when I'm old and gray, you make me feel the way I feel today. 'Cause you make me feel so. You make me feel so. You make me feel so young. So young. You make me feel so young. You make me feel so young.